Okay, this is the front door, looking at it from the porch, and you can see a view of the porch here. The door you're looking at here leads into the summer kitchen, and in the summer kitchen, that's where we used to eat our meals in the summertime from spring until fall. And it was always cooler in there than in the house. Obviously, there was no air conditioning back in those days, but I'll walk into the summer kitchen here and you can kind of get a view. It's obviously hasn't been lived in for a lot of years, but used to be a wood stove set right here with a chimney going up through the floor, and use it for heat and also I think to cook on at one point maybe. And just a little more view of the summer kitchen itself. There was a long table set right in here in front of that window, and that's where we eat our meals at. There was also, I think, a refrigerator here, and over on this side, if I recall right, there might have even been a electric stove there at one time. So once the house got electric in it. So I'm going to walk on back through the rest of the summer kitchen. In the back here was a like a little small area where they had a sink, and it was cold running water only, and a place to store things. And also there was like a flour box and different things right here to keep sugar and flour and stuff like that in for cooking purposes. Back here there was two doors that actually went outside. And when the house and the summer kitchen had vinyl siding put on the outside of it, it was put over top of those doors, so they are closed off from the outside. The summer kitchen had a upstairs in it, so we're going up the steps right now to try to give you a view of what's upstairs, and hope it don't run into any snakes up here. But you can kind of get a view of what the top of the summer kitchen looked like. There's a chimney back there that the bottom was taken out where the wood stove was, but that part's still sitting there. You can get a kind of a view of what the top looked like up here. And a lot of storage up here for canning supplies, empty canning jars and things like that that our mother would use to store until the next spring and summer when we'd start doing canning all over again. And it's a nice place to store other things that you didn't use year round up here, like butchering supplies and things like that that would go with that. I'm going to go back down the steps now. Once I get back out of the summer kitchen, I'm going to try to test this video out to see if it actually is working and recording. So we're now back out on the porch. We're now going into the house in the kitchen area. So this door here is going to lead us into the kitchen, and I'll give you some views of that. Used to have a real long table in here. There maybe 10, 12, 14 of us could eat at one time. So I'll give you a little view of the kitchen. A lot of counter space, a lot of cabinets, sink, stove, refrigerator up in the corner, And this is a table that we used for the last quite a few years. So it had room for 8 people to sit there. We also had a small table out on the porch that our dad built for the grandkids when they would come, and they could eat out on the porch, a nice little short table with benches, and they always enjoyed eating their meals out there and being with their kids of their own age. So again, this is the kitchen, a little more view of it around. Telephone used to sit over in the corner. On this wall there was several pictures. Jerry used to keep pictures here on the wall of aerial view of the farm, and there was several religious pictures up here, and our mother and dad used to hang up the big family rosary after it was done praying the rosary every night, and that's where it was kept. This door here goes down into the basement, and I'm going to save that until the end of the video to go down in the basement. And over here is the other end where I just walked in that door. Here was a sink with a mirror. Used to be a mirror there, not there now. And this here is a pantry, which used to store canned goods and stuff like that in it. And the washing machine and things like that were down in the basement. But over the years, as our mother got older and stuff, we put in a washer and dryer up here so she wouldn't have to go up and down the steps. So there's a washer and dryer up here on this level. This room here is what we called the good living room, and actually before it became the good living room, our grandmother, our dad's mother, lived in this room, and she passed away in 1952, and I remember her bed being in here, and her family would come to visit, and they'd come in here and visit with her and things like that. So a lot of the Huck family would come here to visit with their mother or grandmother at our place. And this is a little view just going around the room here. But I remember in 1952, I was about 6 years old, and one morning when we get up, the door going upstairs was locked at the bottom, and we found out that our grandmother had passed away during the night, and so the small kids, we were kept in the stairway until they had a chance to funeral home to come and get her and take her to the funeral home. And back in those days, funerals, a lot of them were held in the people's homes. So the funeral home brought her back here and set her up in this room for viewing. So there was a lot of people came with all of her children and grandchildren came and to view our grandmother before the funeral. And I remember those days well because it was just, they would come in one end on the kitchen side and go through the house and view her, and then go out on the back porch and back outside. And a lot of good memories here. Now I'm going to come out of here and go into back into the kitchen and into another living room. And this is the living room we originally used because our grandmother was on the other side, and that was her bedroom and everything. And this one here, you can see, has a nice wainscot, nice woodwork around it and stuff like that. And actually there was a couch used to sit on this wall here that Jerry used to sleep in a lot of times, you know, and while he was still living here. Kind of a view around of the mantle there, had some religious pictures above it and things on the mantle. Over in the corner was a desk that our dad used for many, many years to keep all his personal and financial information in, things like that. And over here on this wall, there was actually a chimney went up through this wall, and it was a wood, I think a fireplace in here, or a wood heater. I don't remember those days, but I remember hearing about it. And there you can see on the ceiling where the roof had leaked at one time, but it was fixed and no longer leaks. Over in this corner, you can kind of see some of the buildings around the barn out through the window there. But in this corner, I remember when I was a kid, there was a crank up phone there. It was a party line where there might be 6, 8, 10 different families on the same line, and so you had to take turns. You might pick up the phone and someone was talking, and it was always a treat when you was able to use the phone. Kind of turning around here, you can see out the door back into the kitchen. So again, that's where we ate. Over time, we were allowed to have a TV. Could not have a TV for a lot of years, and I think it might have been in sometime in the 50s, I'm guessing, mid to late 50s, we was able to get a TV, and it was black and white then. And I remember the kids, we used to like to watch that because we'd never seen anything like that before. And our mother and dad's bedroom was not too far from here, so we couldn't turn it up very loud. If we did, we certainly would hear about it or tell us to get to bed and turn that thing off. The only time that our parents would really watch TV much was if the Pope was on, but for some reason, or maybe the president was talking, then they would watch it, but otherwise it was not something that they were interested in. And but as kids, it entertained us, but we had plenty to do, so we didn't need a lot of entertaining. So I'm going to move on now into the hallway. And in the hallway here, if you turn to the left, there's a door that goes out onto a porch, and you can kind of get a view of that door there, and there's a nice swing out there, and I'll show you that a little bit later. But this is the hallway here, and going the other direction, at the end of the other hallway is a bathroom. When the house was built, as I understand, around 1891, there was no indoor plumbing or indoor bathrooms. There was an outhouse, and that's what everyone used. And I think probably sometime after I was born, or around that same time in 1946, electric was put in the house, and not too long after that, I believe, this bathroom was added on, so we had indoor bathroom from then on. So there's, looking back here a little closer, had a bathtub and a shower, and at one point it had an old, I think it was a clawfoot bathtub in there, so that was remodeled over the years and stuff like that. This here is just a view back into the good living room, or the bedroom that our grandma used to live in that I told you about earlier. Now I'm going to kind of swing around and go into what I guess I would call the downstairs master bedroom. And this is the bedroom that our mother and dad slept in. And it was remodeled over the years. Today what you're seeing is paneled wall and things like that. Right here, to the right when you come in, was a mantel, and there used to be a fireplace or a wood heater in there and a chimney going up through. And so you can kind of see the bedroom and the curtains. Big window here in the center of the front of the bedroom had stained glass around the perimeter of the top sash of the window. We always thought that was cool to have some stained glass. And again, our mother and dad, this is where their bedroom was for many years. And again, you can see a little more of it. The window here, you might be able to see right outside the window, is a porch swing, and I'll go out there later and show you more about that. And this here is a closet for mother and dad. And actually, just to add a little more to this, our dad passed away in this bedroom. He laid down for a nap one day and never woke up. And so still miss him today and miss our mother today, but this is the bedroom that they lived in all the time they was living in the house. I'm going to go upstairs now. This is the stairs I was telling you earlier about. The door was shut, and the kids, we had to stay inside here after our grandmother passed away until they could take her away. So I'm going to go up the steps. Hopefully we're still recording things. You can see here on the floor is one register for heat. So the whole upstairs of the house, 3 bedrooms, we had one register to get heat out of. And so back in the bedrooms, it could get pretty cold at night with no heat in there, particularly if the doors were shut. At the top of the steps to the left was the girls' bedroom. And I'm going to walk in there and show you some video of it. So this would have been where, as I recall, at least 4 of our sisters was their bedroom, and the 5th sister had a bedroom of her own, I think, but I'll show you it in a little bit. Again, a leaky spot in the ceiling where the roof had been repaired, no longer leaks, so it's good shape here. Nice closet over here in the corner, and back wall was a dresser setting there, and there was actually a bed setting here and a bed setting over on this wall. And if you kind of look down here at the floor, you can see that patch of wood that's a different color. There was a chimney went up through there, just like in Grandma Huck's bedroom below it, for wood heat and things like that. So this is a girl's bedroom. 4 of my sisters slept in this bedroom. Now I'm going to come out and go across the hallway to the boys' bedroom, and I don't know why, but the boys' bedroom was a little bit smaller, and but if you can believe this, 5 of us here at one time until the older one might have left home. And we had 2 beds, as I recall. One bed set right in here, this wall, and over in this corner. And scanning, you can see things outside, and once the outside, I'll take more shots of that. This here corner was a chimney also that came up through here, and that was when we were downstairs talking in the first living room, not the good living room, but the first living room. I showed you where there's a wood stove. Well, this is where the chimney come up through the bedroom and went outside. Again, the closet here. So, we didn't have a lot of clothes in those days, so certainly all 5 of us clothes fit in there. We did have a dresser, and how our mother ever kept track of whose clothes was whose when she did the laundry, I'll never know, but that's amazing. Okay, I'm going out of here now and going back to my oldest sister's bedroom, Marion, and like I said, I don't know how she ended up with a bedroom by herself. May have not always been that way, possibly. Our mother and dad lived in this bedroom maybe early on, and then later, after our grandmother died in '52, it's possible that they moved into the bedroom downstairs, and then Marion moved into this room. So this is a picture here. It's actually a little bit bigger than the bedroom downstairs that my mother and dad had, but it's a nice bedroom, as you can see. Now here is a place, the chimney right there, and had a bad leak up around the chimney, and that was fixed and repaired several years ago, but we never did anything to fix the ceiling or cover that up, but it doesn't leak today. And Jerry, after Sister Marion, after she got married and moved out and stuff, and over time Jerry ended up moving into this bedroom, and this is where he slept when he was here, just he and my mother and dad. He slept here, and then when they both passed away and were gone, he eventually moved downstairs into their bedroom. Closet here on this side. There was a dresser setting over on this wall. And now I'm going to go back out of this bedroom, go back downstairs. I hope you don't get dizzy watching this, because I may be moving too fast. Don't know, I've never really done this before. Back down to our mother and dad's bedroom. Right here, I know that's a telephone jack there, but you see this little round spot right here. The furnace was down underneath this in the basement, and right here was a knob that you could turn to adjust the draft on the wood and coal furnace. And so that's how you'd get more heat in the house, was you could turn that and you let more air into the furnace and make the heat hotter coming out, or you could adjust it back. So there was a cable went down through here, down into the basement to the furnace, that opened and closed the draft door to make it burn hotter or less hot. Don't know if I can get out this door. I'm going to try. I guess not. I'm going to walk outside now and see if I can keep the video going. This is probably going to be a pretty long video because it looks like it's on 16 minutes right now. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to go down in the basement first. So this is the steps going down into the basement. Used to hang a lot of our winter clothes, coats, things like that in here, coveralls, stuff like that. At one time, the basement had a dirt floor, and over the years, it was covered up with concrete and stuff. But as you can see, sandstone for the walls and stuff, and that's what was, in 1891, that's what they used to build the walls and the houses and stuff. I'm going to try to turn a light on here so we can get a little more light. It's a water pump there that can be used to pump water out of the cistern through the house. Over here is actually a water line. You can see it coming through the wall and a water filter there. That is spring water coming off of a cistern almost on top of the hill. So a lot of water pressure there. Don't ever recall running out of spring water. Much better to drink than just regular city water or rainwater. And so we always liked that water. Here, turning to the left a little bit, is what we used to call the egg room. And I'm going to try to find the light switch here. This here is where our dad would sit down here at night and rainy days and clean eggs. Had a lot of chickens, several hundreds of chickens, maybe as many as 1,200 or so at one time. But he would sell eggs, to make some money off of, to support us. And so on the other end there's a door there that actually goes up the steps to go outside. Going on around here a little bit, on the back wall over where I showed you the water tank and that, if you can see down there's a little cutout in the floor, and you can kind of see how long that is. It's fairly long, but there used to be a rack there and barrels of wine. Our dad loved to make wine. Dandelion wine was probably one of his favorites that he made, but he made grape wine, other kinds of wine, and very good at it. But he would do this in I think it was a 48 or 50 gallon keg, and they were like old whiskey barrels, and had probably 6 or 8 down here and a couple small ones under the steps. So, in the wintertime, you had something to keep you warm when you was working outside. And back in those days, the families would get together a lot in the wintertime at each other's houses and play cards for entertainment and stuff like that. And it'd always break out the wine, and maybe they'd have Limburger cheese and crackers, for a snack, and that always smelled pretty good to some people anyhow. So going over on the other side, we'll turn another light on here, and on this side was really where all the vegetables and fruit and stuff was stored that our mother canned. So had from floor to ceiling had shelves around there, and they was always packed full of vegetables, fruit, canning. Sometimes Kenny used to call it chunk meat, but it was beef that was cooked up and put into jars and canned, and then all you had to do was dump it out and heat it up. So that was always good. But again, you can see on the back wall where we had all the storage for that, and a lot of good memories down here. A lot of good food came through this basement. Now I'm walking back in the furnace room. Try to get you another view here coming back into the furnace room. This here where you see this blue styrofoam up there was a window behind that. And that window would open up, and that's where we would put firewood down into the basement and coal. So we used to burn coal and wood. And there was a big bin down here. Sometimes there was two, one for wood, one for coal. Typically you'd burn wood during the day, and maybe at night put some coal in because it would last longer and keep heat going more through the night. And as we swing around here, here's the electrical panels coming in. Like I said, when the house was built, there was no electric. I don't think the electric was put in until maybe in the 40s sometime. And in the latter years, Jerry had a generator put in, so if the electric went out, the power would stay on. So over here is a gas furnace, and so the gas furnace is supplied by a well down along one of the bottoms, and Jerry bought that gas well quite a few years ago, so the well is part of the property here, and so there's free gas to it, and that's where the gas comes from. Also, just another quick memory here. When the wood furnace was down here, it set right in that same place, and you can see a chimney in the back there where the exhaust went into it and up through. And our dad used to come down here in the wintertime and crack hickory nuts and walnuts, so our mother could have walnuts and hickory nuts when she made her special rolls and coffee cakes and all those kind of things. It was just, it was really taste good every time we had it, you know. And so he would pick out the nuts down here and stuff in the wintertime where it was warmer. And I also think he spent some time down here because the wine barrels were not very far away. So he enjoyed it down here. And I'm going to see if I can find it. I don't know that I can, but if you remember, I told you about upstairs, the door. There was a chain that come down here to open the draft on the furnace, and it was right in this area somewhere. It's hard to see in the dark down here. So I'm going to go out of here and go back upstairs. That's all for the basement. The water pressure coming from the spring on the hill, you can see almost 100 pounds of water pressure, mainly just because of the gravity from how high the hill is, just pushing down there, and the valve is not opened all the way up. So a lot of good water pressure. Sometimes if you shut the spigot off too quick, the pipes will rattle. It's such a jolt to it. Okay, going back up out of the basement. Back up into the kitchen. And just another memory here. When we were young, and even when we got a little older, our dad would always cut the boys' hair. So he had 5 heads of hair to cut. And right here was a plug where he plugged his clippers in. And he would cut our hair right here, sitting on a kitchen stool. So we didn't have to worry about going anywhere to get a haircut. That was always done for us, and he did a good job at it. So anyhow, just another memory for in here. I'm going outside now and see if I can get some views of outside. It's a little bit sunny right now, so not sure what will happen here because I won't be able to see the screen. Outside the porch, I'm going to scan around just a little bit, and hopefully you can see there's a granary up here. Back behind the granary is, you can see a little bit of the outhouse. That was the outhouse. That's where we used to have to go to the bathroom before there was indoor plumbing and a toilet. And if you scan on around a little more, you can see buildings up here by the granary. There's a chicken house, 2 corn cribs, what used to be the hog pen, and another corn crib, and a garage. And over here, again, I can't see this very well, so I don't know how it's going to turn out, but that area over there is where our mother used to have her garden, and she had a couple other gardens around the farm, but this was close to the house, and she could always go over there and work late in the evenings and stuff like that, and she really enjoyed that. I think she probably spent a lot of time praying while she was out there by herself working in the garden. Summer kitchen from the outside. Kind of the front view of the house. I'm going to try to walk around the house. And there is the doors that open up to go down into the basement. If you remember, I showed you the door from down inside. And out here on this end of the house, see the 2 windows in the upstairs bedroom where Marion used to have as her bedroom. Downstairs, the stained glass window being where our mother and dad, that was their bedroom. And that's the generator that Jerry put in some years ago. Walking around here, you can see the porch, and there's a swing on the porch there. Again, I don't know how this is going to turn out because the sun's shining on the screen and I can't see it. This is the other side of the house. That's the kitchen windows. And back here, this is the end of the summer kitchen. And then the outside of the porch and the back of the kitchen. Up above you can see the windows for the boys and girls bedroom, and then the hallway window. And right here in front of me, hopefully you can see it, there was a well here, and this well had a cover over top of it. It had an enclosure on it, and there was a bucket that hung in there, and you would let that bucket down into the well and it would fill up with water, and you'd crank it back up and get well water. And so that was always a good source of good water. It hadn't been used for a lot of years, and the cover for it had been taken off and concrete slab put over top of it. Down here is a view of the barn on this end. The original barn did not have a straw shed on it. That was added on later. And then Jerry also added on a bigger shed in the back, more for cattle holding pen and stuff like that, so to get out of the weather. 2 small sheds down here. One of those sheds was used to store a thrash machine in. That our dad and 2 of his brothers had a thrash machine, a silo filler, and a sawmill. And I can't get a picture of the sawmill from here, but those 3 things would keep them busy winter, spring, summer, fall, doing things. Not only would they fill silo for themselves and other people, they would thrash, the same thing, take the thrash machine out to other farms. Sawmill, a lot of people brought their logs in, and if the sawing job was big enough, they would actually move the sawmill out to someone's woods. Over on this side here, you can see a machine shed down here, and Jerry built that many years ago, and he used it a lot. He had a heater in there and stuff, so he could work in there, and had doors that would fold down and close one end off, and he would work on his equipment in there and do things like that. I'm going to walk over to the garden here a little bit. Where I'm walking right now is where we used to have our hotbeds, and this is where we would raise tomatoes and peppers and other things like that, but we'd always plant those tomatoes, start out with seeds, and as those seeds got bigger and stuff, we'd have to retransplant them and spread them out, thin them out, and then eventually we'd have to pull them all out, plant them further apart, and put them into other hotbeds that was located about 1,000 feet from here. This little building here was the hotbed sash, where we would put on the hotbeds in the spring to keep the plants from getting frosted and stuff, and even had covers to put on those hotbeds when it get really cold to keep the plants from freezing and stuff. So you can kind of see some sash in there. I'm going to see if I can walk down and go through the barn a little bit. I don't know how long this video will last. I'm going to walk into one of the machine sheds here just to see if it's still recording. Looks like it is. So again, this is a picture of the barn. On the left side, those two doors you see there, that's where a lot of the horse-drawn equipment used to be stored in there. Binders, just different things that was drawn by horses. So obviously this farm used to be farmed with nothing but horses. And our hope is that the people who might take over the farm, that's what they're going to be doing, is farming it the way it used to be with horses. So I'm walking into the front of the barn. This may be a little dark or hard to see to adjust, but now you can see to the back of the barn. Used to back thrash machine in here and thrash wheat and oats and things like that. And in the back of the barn, blow the loose straw into the straw shed. And if I remember, I'll tell you more about that when I get back to there. But here you can see hay mows. This used to be filled up with loose hay. And if I can get a picture up there, you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a big hay fork up there that ran on a trolley and came across through the middle for the ridge of the barn. See if I can get up there to it. And you can see where that trolley ran out the center of the barn. It would go either to the right or to the left. And then the hay would be out there, and pull a rope and it would drop the hay down in the mile, and then you have to take a pitchfork and put it back in the ends of the mile and the corners and stuff like that. Today, and for a lot of years, we've had nothing but baled hay in here. And so you can kind of see the hay that's in here right now is from one of the neighbors who leases part of the hay fields right now. So he's got hay stored on both sides. These are chutes going down into pens underneath to where cattle or feed cattle. Steps going down to the basement. And now I'm walking back into the straw shed. And this is where I was saying we used to blow the straw back here when we were thrashing and stuff. And so this would be full of loose straw that we would use for bedding purposes of the cows and cattle and horses and everything else in the winter time, and whenever they was stayed inside for a lot of the time. So again, you can see how big this is, and one of the memories here would be that when we were kids, we used to love to, when this was full of straw, make tunnels in the straw and play hide and seek. And I don't think we would dare do that today because we never thought about how dangerous it might be, straw collapsing on you. But we had all kind of tunnels that you could hide in, you know, going from the floor clear up to the ceiling and back and forth. And it was always a lot of fun on a Sunday afternoon, whether it was with our own brothers and sisters or some of the neighbor kids would come over and join in the fun. And so always had a good time doing that. Again, before television, before any of those things, you know, so it was a lot of fun. Okay, I'm going to turn around and come back out of the barn. See if I can walk around and go downstairs. First, I'm going to see if I can open this door here and you can see back in to the side of the barn. I mentioned we used to store horse-drawn equipment in, so you can kind of see back through here, see how big, how long that was, and right now there's a couple round bales of hay stored in there, and the people it's leasing, they had this filled up with round bales of hay. Another view down here from the house. Now, if you can see it or not in a picture, but there's a cistern over there. It's got a round concrete top on it. Water's drained off the house roof into the cistern, and that water feeds down into the barn to also help water the animals there. On the right side of the barn, there's another cistern over there that was built later on that collects water off the barn roof and also is used to water animals on that side of the barn. I'm going to try to see if we can go inside here. May be a little dark in here, I'm not sure because I don't have very good lights in the barn, but I'll try to leave that open. So we're now coming into the barn, and on this side of the barn is where we had two different cattle pens, one for small calves, one for what we called steers, and again we'd use straw in there to put bedding down for them to sleep on and stuff like that. In the wintertime, the boys used to just love to come down here and ride those steers because they would buck you off and throw you in the manure, and you was a mess by the time you was done, but it was fun. That was our entertainment, along with, you know, ice skating on the Rainbow Creek, you know, going down to the Muskingum River and playing hide and seek in the tunnels in the straw shed. Over here, this is kind of hard to see, but this here at one time was where the horses were kept. There was stalls here for 6 or 8 horses, and they would come in through the front and be tied up in here. The harness was hanging on the walls, and you would harness them up and either go cultivate tomatoes or rake hay or things like that. Here's a little view from the front. Actually, this stall right here used to be the bull pen. Right here used to be a big feed box that the feed was kept in to dip out of and put in the troughs for the cattle to eat. This is the steps going upstairs. And over here, actually, there's you can't see it there very well, but there's a water fountain right here inside that rectangle that comes out of the cistern. That's where cattle can get water from. These here are all kind of stalls here that we used to milk a lot of cows, and the cows would come in here and we'd tie them up and then milk them. And there was always milk by hand. Did not ever have any automatic milkers or anything like that. And so we would milk them by hand and then carry the milk in buckets up above the house where we had a cooler that we would dump the milk in. They were like, I think it was like 10-gallon, maybe 10-gallon milk cans. And they would sit down in cool water and wait till the milkman to come. I don't know whether they come every day or not. I think he might have, depending on how many cows you were milking. And he would haul those cans of milk back to a dairy place where they would convert it into bottled milk and maybe ice cream, different things like that. This here is just a little shot of the other steer pen, and you can see again stalls there for them to eat and stuff. Out here on this end, it's kind of hard to see, but this door here used to be a silo on the other side of it, and we would fill it up with silage, corn, in the fall, and then in the wintertime, that's what we'd use also to feed the cattle. So I'm out here on the other end of the barn, and this here is a big shed holding area that I was telling you earlier that Jerry had built and added onto the barn. A lot of space he put on here in doing that, so it really greatly expanded how much area there was under roof here. Here you can see some cattle. These cattle belong to one of the guys that's leasing part of the property, and he's leasing the back part of the barn. Down here in the back, this used to be a place for cattle. Cows could go in and out of here and stay in here at night and stuff in the wintertime. It was not uncommon for them to go down to the creek, and that's where they'd get a lot of their water back then. And in wintertime, you might have to go down and cut holes in the ice so they could get in, or so they could get water, I mean. Okay, I'm going to come back out of here and try to go back through the barn and out the other end. You can kind of get an idea, you know, how old this barn is. This barn was built probably before 1891 because it was in a picture that was taken after the new house was built and the old log cabin was still sitting above it. So again, you can see the stone wall and all the hewn out logs and beams. I want to show you this. This is a knife we used to use to cut the strings on the bales when we would either straw or hay, and I remember using that for many years. Worked very well. It's a blade off of an old hay cutter. And you can kind of see on the end of the barn here, it's getting weathered pretty good. It's going to eventually need new boards or some kind of metal siding on it. This is the other end of the back of the barn we was in a little while ago. You saw these round bales setting from the other end, and this here again had cattle down here and things like that. This here was the bull pen. Pretty hefty pen to keep the bull in. And then back here again is the part of the area that Jerry had put on and enclosed. to help create a lot more space on the roof for cattle and storage of equipment and things like that. Equipment that's sitting here today belongs to the people that are leasing this underside of the barn. All right, now I'm going to walk back up the hill, see if I can get up in the granary and do things like that up there to take some video of that. So you may get a lot of jumping around here, and hopefully someone somewhere along the line can edit this and take some of this stuff out so you get a more clear picture of actually what we were trying to record. Jerry had a flagpole here. He always kept a flag on. Birdhouse here is getting pretty bad shape. This is the end of the granary. Again, the outhouse setting in back. I'm going to try to see if I can open the door and give you a little view inside. The bottom of the granary, our dad and mom used this to store potatoes, vegetables, apples, all kinds of things in the wintertime, and keep them from freezing down there. Had a little wood heater in there. There's now a little gas stove. But over time, our dad turned this into a little wood shop for himself, and he had a little table saw, a little planer, a couple little pieces of woodworking equipment, stuff like that, and he loved to do woodwork. He made each one of his children a wooden sled, and I think most everyone still has theirs today, and it's really a nice thing that you can look back and say, our dad made this. So here is a little view of the basement of the granary. That J.C. Huck there, I just noticed that, is Jerome Clarence Huck, 1960. Okay, we're coming out of the basement of the granary. See if I can get that latched. This is the back door to the granary, and it's got a bar across the inside of it so you can't get in from the outside. Hopefully I can get a little more picture of the whole granary. And over the years, those 3 stalls to the left of it were added on for garages and stuff and for storage. There's an old license plate up there. I don't know if you can read it or not, but it says 1951 on it. Okay, we're going in the upstairs, or the first floor of the granary. And here we used to have some feed barrels and stuff like that where we'd put chicken feed in and then carry it to the various different chicken houses for feed. Again, you can see from the woodwork and beams and stuff like that, This granary, picture of it was on the picture of the old log cabin and the house, so I'm guessing 1890s or possibly before. Used to be some little cribs in here where some grain would be kept and stuff like that. Here at one time there was wheels, metal wheels, pulleys going across here. They'd actually go up into the floor above and almost up into the attic where they would end down into the basement, so they could run different pieces of equipment that obviously were not run off of electric. There's a door I was telling you about. You can see it's got the bar across it from the inside. Nice big old workbench here. There's a chimney that goes down into the basement, so there was a heater, wood heater down there at one time. Again, like I said, it's converted to gas over the years. Here's another one of those from this side, looking at pulleys and things that ran belts. And you can't see it, but it did at one point go up through the ceiling. And see if I can see it on this wall, but there used to be a drill mounted to that post right there that was run off of pulleys and stuff like that. And that's what was used to drill things. Going to go upstairs now. Again, you can see by some of the beams and stuff like that how they were put together with pegs and stuff like that. Used to store grain up here, wheat and things like that. And right here on the floor you can see that white square there. That would come out and you could shovel grain down through there. Might take it to the feed mill to get ground up. And one of the things about the upstairs and the granary, also had a lot of fun up here in the wintertime too. And if we could get the place cleaned out, we would use this floor to roller skate. We'd roller skate up here when there was grain in the bins and stuff. Sometimes when we was kids, we'd get down that grain and cover each other up, maybe all but our necks sticking out. And those were the good days. Had a lot of fun doing things like that. And today you'd worry about getting it in your eyes, in your ears, all kind of things, and find 100 reasons why you shouldn't do that, but worked out great for us. Little view of the inn looking towards the house. And you can see starting in this corner over here, there's kind of like a wainscot all the way around the bottom of this. Well, I shouldn't say all the way around, but about 3/4 of the way around. And don't know whether it's true or not, but I remember hearing stories about back in the Prohibition days when the government was cracking down on people having their own stills and things like that, that our parents, grandparents, probably grandparents, had a still, and they buried, or not buried, but hid some of the parts of it in the walls up here. So and they would take it back out and use it and then put it back away. So if someone from the government did come looking for something, they wouldn't find a complete still put together. Might find a piece here or there. So never did know whether that was true or not, but that was one of the legends of the upstairs in the granary. Okay, I'm going to go back downstairs now. On the outside of the granary, I forgot to mention, but there was grapevines on this whole side of it, and just a lot of grapes on it every fall. Our mother would can a lot of grapes, and also make some. Dad would make some wine out of it, and it was always good stuff. This here is what was the tractor garage. So once we got a tractor, that's where the tractor was stored. Again, just more storage up here for other things. Cistern here to collect water coming off the roof. I think possibly Jerry might have backed into it with a tractor at one point and poked a hole in it, so that's all the fuller the cistern will get. But obviously there was a place for water to come out of the cistern and get water up here for the chickens and pigs and things like that. This is an old, very old chicken house. It's 2 floors, and I don't know if I can show you inside the bottom of it or not, but we'll look. The back's all growed up, and one of these days it's probably going to fall down. So you can kind of look in here and see there was windows in it. Was old, actually, sash off the hotbeds used for windows. Nest back in the corner, and there was a lot of roost and stuff for the chickens to roost on at night and things like that. Pretty bad shape right now. And like I said, there's a upstairs to this. The upstairs is pretty bad shape, so we had chickens upstairs and downstairs. Gonna see there how things have rotted out. Also up here in this area, between where I'm standing and the gate up there, was more hotbeds. That was filled full of hotbeds, and so when we would raise the seedlings and they would get big enough to transplant, one last time before they was ready to set out in the field, we'd bring them up here and space them out more so they could grow better. And then once they were done growing here, we would pull them up and take them up on the hill to the tomato patches and plant them beside stakes. This building over here is another chicken house that was added probably in the, I'm going to say maybe late 60s, or not late, yeah, it could have been late 60s, early 70 time frame. So our dad had a lot of chickens. He was getting older. That was easier for him to manage and take care of the chickens, not a lot of heavy lifting and things like that. And right now, one of the neighbors have this building rented out just to store some of their stuff in. And you see chicken nest over there and chicken nest back here. Actually had a little feed room in this chicken house, and so we can keep the chicken feed in here. Okay, going back down the right side, here's another building, lean-to, that Jerry built onto the side of the corn crib, the big corn crib. But Jerry built that to store some of his equipment in. He'd have a big manure spreader stored in there, different things to keep it out of the weather. Here's a big corn crib he had built. He used to have that pretty much full of corn, and when he raised a lot of corn. This building here originally was a hog house, and so this is where we raised pigs, and it was converted into a chicken house later. But we used to butcher pretty much the day after or the Saturday after Thanksgiving every year. And back then, neighbors would go to each other's house and help each other butcher. And I remember very vividly, we would butcher 5 hogs, and that's what we butchered every winter, and 1 beef, sometimes 2. And but the hogs, we'd have a pole in that door that's open there, and come out here and shoot the hogs inside, drag them out here, let them bleed out, take the guts out, and then hang them up on those poles. And then we didn't skin them, but we'd put hot water and stuff on them and scrape them to scrape the hair off and get all the hair off and everything. And then it was cleaned up good to where the men could start working on them and stuff like that. And it was pretty much an all-day event from early in the morning until later in the afternoon. We would take, the men would take those pigs and start cutting them up, some into ham, some shoulders, some sausage, some pork chops, you name it. But the sausage, we had a smokehouse, which is about right where that shed is right there, smokehouse that we would smoke with hickory wood, sausage, hams, things like that. And then our mother would can some of that stuff, and so we'd have it all winter long and into the spring and maybe even summer some. But the one thing that I remember us kids used to really enjoy was the fat on the pigs was cut off and cut up into chunks to make lard out of, and that's what you used for grease for cooking and stuff. That was the original Crisco, I think. But the pigs, when they was butchered and the inside taken out, we'd save the kidneys and the heart, things like that, and we'd take those and clean them up, cut them in half, and get them good and clean, and put them on a wire and put them down in a pot of boiling water, and they would cook in there. So when it come lunchtime, the older folks would go down to the house and eat. Us kids would stay up here and tend to the fire and make sure everything was going good, and by that time the kidneys were done, the heart was done, and we'd have a little bit of salt and put it on those, and it was something that we really loved doing and really enjoyed eating that stuff. So today no one would do that because too many people's woke. And but anyhow, just a little story on butchering there. This here's another corn crib here, and this was probably the original corn crib that our dad had. I'm going to walk back through here a little bit and just take a shot inside the back of the chicken house here, because this was also chickens back here. But in here, after our dad stopped raising chickens or selling eggs and stuff like that, he had a saw in here and a couple other pieces of woodworking equipment, and some of the bigger things he'd work on in here, and then he might take them down into the basement under the granary and finish them off and stuff like that. So made good use out of this. You can still see some nesting boxes back there. Going to walk around the corn crib here. See if I can open this up. This used to have to shovel corn in here. So here you can get a little better view of the inside of the corn crib. There's some old license plates in there that was tacked in place to cover up a hole or in the wire or the floor or something like that over time. I remember one time Kenny and I were out here playing, doing something, probably something we shouldn't have, but I was up in the corn crib and it was full of corn. I had to crawl up in just under the top of it, and Kenny was doing something down here, and whatever it wasn't something I cared for or something, so I was trying to hit him with an ear of corn, and I was reaching out through the top up there and trying to throw an ear of corn at him to hit him, and I fell out on my head down here, and that made me madder yet. So he took off down the road here, and I tried to nail him with a couple stones, and I hope it didn't hurt him too bad, but I think he's doing good today. So this here is garage. This garage used to set down where the machine shed is, down below the end of the garden. And there were some what we call biddy houses down there because we'd raise chickens from biddies each spring. But this is where our dad used to park his car, and then over time when Jerry was getting ready to build his shed down there, he backed the wagon underneath it and raised it up and hauled it up here and put it up here. And so that's what that garage was used for. Okay, this is a picture of the farm pond. It was built many years ago. I think Jerry built it. It was a dozer he borrowed, I believe. And we had a lot of fun in this pond when we were younger and growing up. Always enjoyed coming up here in the summertime after working in the hay fields and tomato patches and everything all day long and hot and sweaty. And maybe 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, jump in the pond, and it was always so refreshing. And I'm running out of breath here. And anyhow, on weekends, on Sunday afternoon, which was about the only time, if you lived on a farm, that you might have a little bit of free time to do what you wanted to. But we always had fun here with neighbors and things like that would come and swim here. And we had a big raft out on the pond. And, you know, we loved to play King of the Raft. And I had a big diving board out in the middle of the dam there. It's probably 20, 25 feet off the air, or off the water, I should say. And but the raft, playing King of the Raft, was probably the most fun thing. And some of us smaller people, we would end up in the water first, you know, and it was luckily we could swim, you know, and most everyone could swim. But there was a story I'd like to share that one time our brother-in-law, Charles Schilling, was here and swimming, and he couldn't swim, so he would put an inner tube around him, so if he got knocked off or anything like that, he wouldn't sink or anything like that. And there was another guy here that was really a tough little guy. I mean, he was strong, he could swim, and so one day they was playing King of the Raft, and the only two people left on the raft was this guy named David Swineman and Charles Schilling. And obviously Charles would do everything he could to not get thrown off since he couldn't swim. But Dave was able to get him off the raft and into the pond. And Charles went in the pond water head first. So his feet was up in the air and he couldn't get turned over. And all we could see is his feet kicking and thrashing around. We finally got him turned over, and he was spitting up water and stuff, and come out of it just fine. But it was so funny because how big Charles was, and Dave was he was like a wrestler. You know, he was hard to get a hold of, but he was able to win that game of the King of the Raft. And I don't know that anyone ever took Charles off of there after that because he made sure they didn't. But anyhow, it was just some of the fun memories. A lot of people would come here and swim and stuff like that. Is that in the wintertime, we also had a lot of fun when the ice would freeze over on the pond and we could go out on it and ice skate and things like that. And sometimes if it was really cold enough, the ice was thick enough, my older brothers had a Jeep, and they would take that Jeep out on the pond and spin around on it, and sometimes the ice would crack and they would try to get off close to the shore so it wouldn't go through. But just a lot of good memories from the pond here, and whether it was swimming or whether it was playing on the ice or those kind of things, it was just an enjoyable time.